Firstly, I want to let you know that UWE welcomes students with families to Bristol, as we understand it is really important to your happiness to have them with you during your studies. In this presentation for students with dependents, we will be covering who are considered dependents under the student visa rules and immigration requirements, childcare, schools for your children and your dependents' healthcare. We will also give some guidance on how to look for a family accommodation in Bristol, current cost of renting studios or houses in Bristol, and some pitfalls to avoid. Just to let you know, as everyone's needs are individual and budgets differ, we are not able to find accommodation for you.
The Immigration Advice Team is a dedicated service providing information and advice to applicants, students and graduates regarding their student visas. We can also provide limited advice and support for your dependents. For more information, please check out our web pages or contact us via email directly. You can have dependents with you in the UK if you are in receipt of an award from a government and your course is full-time and at least 6 months, or you are doing a postgraduate level full-time course of 9 months or longer at a higher education provider with a track record of compliance, which UWE is, or your current or most recent immigration permission was as a student on a full-time course lasting at least 6 months and all 4 bullet points below in the green box apply. Your permission is current or expired no more than 3 months before this immigration application, and your new immigration application is for a full-time course that is at least 6 months, and your dependent already has student dependent immigration permission, or is the most recent immigration permission that they had and it expired no more than 3 months before this application, or is your child who was born since you were last granted permission, and that you apply for immigration permission at the same time as your dependent. There are separate provisions for children born to students who do not meet the standard rules in the green box. These can be found in Appendix Student, paragraph 31.2 of the Immigration Rules. If you think this does apply to you, I recommend you contact the Immigration Advice Service for further information and guidance. The UKVI will recognise the following people as eligible dependents for the student dependent route. These are your partner, husband or wife, civil partner, or a married partner. In the case of unmarried partners, they require to have been living together with you in a relationship similar to a marriage or civil partnership for a period of at least 2 years before you make your immigration application. You will need to provide evidence of this. For married or civil partner relationships, you would be expected to provide a marriage certificate or formal legal recognition of relationship in the case of applying as a civil partner. Your children are also considered to be dependents. However, they must be younger than 18 on the day that they apply for the visa, and they must not be living an independent life. Not living an independent life means that they do not have a spouse, civil partner or a married partner, and that they live with their parents except where they are living away from the family home due to academic endeavours, for example attending boarding school or university, and they are not employed full-time, and they are wholly or mainly dependent upon their parents for financial and emotional support. If your child is over 16 years old when they apply, they will need to provide particular documents to demonstrate they meet this requirement. Both parents must be coming to live in the UK, not as a visitor, and they must not stay longer than you, and they also must meet the financial requirements. All other members of your family, such as parents, siblings, or other relatives, cannot be your student dependent for visa purposes. Your dependents can apply to enter the UK at the same time as you, or they can apply separately later. If they do not apply at the same time as you, they should ensure that you have received your visa before they make an application themselves. As part of the application process, they will need access to your CAS details. You do not need additional UWE documents. Living cost documents covering £680 for each month of immigration permission up to a maximum of 9 months, £6,120 in total. These funds must be in an account in your name, their name, or the other parent's name if they are your child for a 28-day period before submitting the visa application. They must also have a valid passport, information on immigration history, a TB certificate if it is required from your country of origin. If they are your partner, they must have a marriage or civil partnership certificate or evidence of cohabiting. And for children, they must have their birth certificate and a letter of consent written by both parents. Once your dependents have submitted their applications and attended a biometrics appointment at a visa application centre, the UKVI caseworker will assess the application and documents provided. If your dependent's application is successful, a vignette sticker will be placed in their passport. If they are being given immigration permission for more than 6 months, the vignette will only be valid for 90 days. They will have to enter the UK within that 90-day period and then collect a biometric residence permit, or BRP, from a post office or university when arriving in the UK. The letter they receive with the vignette tells them how to do this. If your dependent has used the university's address as the BRP collection point, you as the student may need to contact our compliance team to provide the details of your dependents so that we can successfully identify the BRPs and contact you when they arrive. When collecting a BRP, each dependent must be present in person with their passports to pass security checks. If your dependent is being given immigration permission for 6 months or less, the vignettes in their passport will last for the whole period. It will not expire after 90 days and they will not be issued a BRP. Your dependents will be able to work if you are either in receipt of an award from a government and taking a full-time course that is at least 6 months, or you are taking a full-time postgraduate course of 9 months or longer at a higher education provider with a track record of compliance. Dependents who are permitted to work can do any type of work, however they must not work as a professional sports person, which includes being a sports coach. Each dependent must pay an application fee of £363 and immigration health surcharge of £470 per year of leave. For example, a 12-month postgraduate course will have a visa of 16 months to include the wrap-up period. This means that each person will need to pay an immigration health surcharge of 1.5 years, which totals £705. The immigration health surcharge grants you access to the NHS, National Health Service, such as receiving treatment at hospital and registering with a GP. You will still need to pay for certain types of services such as prescriptions, dental treatment and eye tests.
The good news is by paying the immigration health surcharge for you and your dependents, this gives you and them access to our National Healthcare Service. And this will include receiving treatment at hospital, and you will not have to pay to see your doctor. It is highly advisable to register with the university's health service as part of the registration process on your course, rather than wait until you need a doctor. When you secure accommodation for your dependents, we recommend registering with a local doctor's surgery. Do remember that you will need to pay for any medical prescriptions for you and your dependents and for all dental treatments. On average, a teeth clean with a dental hygienist is £50. Eye tests are slightly cheaper and you will have to pay for any upgrade to glasses you may need. UWE students can avail of free eye tests in our optometry centre in our Glenside campus. In the UK, school education is compulsory for children between the ages of 5 and 16. Children start school the September after their 4th birthday. Your children will be able to attend government primary and secondary schools in the UK as long as they are here as your dependent. You will not have to pay school fees, but schools may sometimes refuse places to children if they consider their stay in the UK will be too short or if schools have no free places. To apply for a school place for your child, you will need to know when you will be arriving in Bristol and the address you will be living at. As schools only accept children living in the local area, this is known as the catchment area. You should not apply for a place more than 6 weeks before you and your child will arrive. See the UK government website detailed on this slide for more information. Childcare for children under 5 is expensive and places are limited. UWE has a nursery on our Frenchay campus, Halley Nursery, with about 30 places for children of students. As soon as you've accepted your place, you should apply to put your name on the nursery waiting list. You should expect to pay upwards of £1,100 per month for full-time childcare for preschool-aged children. This slide will give you an indication of the cost of childcare in Bristol.
UWE welcomes families, however, unfortunately can only offer accommodation to individual students. So if your family are coming with you, you need to consider private accommodation. Bristol is a very desirable UK city to live in with a diverse population. The quality of life is pretty good with lots of things to do and see, with lots of green recreational spaces in the city itself and within the beautiful Somerset countryside, just a short drive away. Work opportunities are here for professionals and families, and we have 2 large universities as well as many colleges in the city, so it has a lively student population too. Competition is very strong in Bristol to rent property, and so landlords have no difficulty finding tenants, but this doesn't mean that you need to rush into making a decision. It is important that you plan and find accommodation before you move your dependents over. The university cannot provide accommodation for you and your family, so we strongly recommend that you come to the UK before your family so that you can stay in temporary accommodation, ideally with friends or extended family in an Airbnb or a hotel, so that you can look for a suitable accommodation in an area that will work for all of your family's needs. As most landlords are accustomed to the academic year starting in September, you may find that you are only offered a 6-month contract, meaning that in the summer you'll need to explore the possibility of renewing or finding alternative accommodation for the remainder of your course. You can contact any local letting agency and view properties on their website. We do not advise you to pay any money or sign any contracts before you have actually viewed the property. Ask a trusted friend or family member living in the UK to help you, as they will be more familiar with the market. The Students' Union Advice Centre can help with determining if a contract is legitimate or not. Scams or false offerings can happen, and we do not want any of our students to fall foul of a scam. You must disclose all relevant details to letting agents or landlords when searching for accommodation. For example, you must tell them if children will live in the property, because some properties are not suitable for younger children, and if a landlord finds out later that you have falsified information, the contract may be broken. Depending on where you come from, you may think rental costs are reasonable or expensive. Here is an overview of the monthly living costs in Bristol to rent a property, bearing in mind that costs will increase if you are bringing your partner and/or children. We will include more information about costs in the next slides. There are some very important questions to ask yourself when you start looking for accommodation. Where do you want to live? Do you want to be close to campus or nearer to the city? Do you want to be on a bus route, near to your children's school or your partner's work? Where to look? StudentPad is an online accommodation platform that we would recommend, as well as the Find a Flatmate group on Facebook. Contact University of Bristol Student Lettings or contact the Advice Centre for our local agency list. By law, the letting agency must be a member of a government-backed redress scheme, and this is important because it gives you, the tenant, an official route to complain about the agency if you are not happy with them. If the landlord or agency is part of an accreditation scheme, this is good for you because it means the property and how it is managed will need to adhere to certain standards. Have a think about what you're looking for. Is it a house, a flat? Do you want outside space? Do you want to be on a busy street or a quieter location? Do you want to be near to shops and other local amenities? Most important is, what is your budget? This is one of the most important questions to ask yourself, so think about your income and expenditure on a weekly basis. If the property is too expensive, then don't rent it. And remember that the cost will be higher the more people you have to think about. Check with the agency if you need a guarantor. This is a UK-based person who can guarantee your rent and knows the importance of understanding joint and several liability if another tenant defaults. House in Hand and UK Guarantor are 2 companies that we know of that may be able to act for you if you don't have a UK-based person. It is perfectly normal for a landlord or agency to ask to see your passport or visa. Landlords in England are required to check their tenant's immigration status before granting a tenancy to make sure that the tenant has a right to rent. And we'll talk about this in a little bit more detail later on. You can evidence your right to rent online using the UK Government check-in service. To do this, you will need your date of birth and either your biometric resident permit, your biometric resident card, or your passport or national identity card. This service will generate a 9-character long share code for you that can be passed on to a landlord and enable them to access your right to rent information. There is plenty of guidance online to help you throughout the process. This page gives you some examples of the costs you should be expecting to pay while living in Bristol. It is important that you factor this into your planning so that you know you can afford to live here. This includes unavoidable expenses such as rent, food and bills, but it does not include discretionary spending on leisure, clothes, eating out, for example. Please note that these have been calculated for summer 2022 and are subject to change, but hopefully they'll give you a rough idea. If you are looking for part-time work to help with living costs, then the Students' Union has a job shop. It might take some time for you or your dependent to secure a job, so make sure you factor this into your planning and you won't be relying on it for the first few months. It is important to note that rent in Bristol varies significantly by area, so make sure you do your research. The location and accommodation you choose really does have an impact on how well you settle into university life and succeed with your studies. Your course timetable is set by the university and you will be expected to attend lectures in person and not online. Your timetable cannot be individualised, so it is important to research properly where you want to live and know that it suits your budget, and consider journey length, timetable and ticket prices, as well as other logistics you might need to factor in, such as childcare, schools or employment opportunities for you or your partner. If you'll be looking for a school place for your child, make sure you have done your research on schools so that you can factor this into your decision. You will only be able to enrol your child in a school if you already have a fixed address in its catchment area. Bristol is well connected to neighbouring cities such as Bath, Newport, Cheltenham and Gloucester, where you may find the cost of renting is cheaper. Remember though, if you are looking at this option, you must be very clear on how you will commute and how much it will cost you. And remember that your UWE timetable may require you to come onto campus every day of the week. And you will not be able to change your timetable to fit in with your travel plans. We have gathered some general information about train journeys here, but please visit the GWR website to check your journey route and timetables. Note that the prices shown here are for peak time journeys, and if you are travelling at quieter times, the prices may be cheaper. If you are under 31 or will be travelling as a group or a couple regularly, you might wish to buy a rail card that will allow you to benefit from reduced train fares. Visit railcard.co.uk for more information. This page talks through some of the key terms you are likely to hear when looking for accommodation or written in the tenancy agreement. As with anything when we do it for the first time, you might not know the terms or be sure what they mean. Please remember that the Students' Union advice team are here to help you and can check your contract and help with making sure you are happy with the terms and conditions before signing it. It is important to know about scams and being able to recognise fake adverts and information. Unfortunately, we do hear of students being scammed when looking for accommodation. To prevent this happening, you should look for accommodation in safe places like StudentPad and not websites that just advertise a room, as anyone can post a message about that. If you are starting your accommodation search but not in the UK, then if you know anyone in the UK, see if they can help you out. Agencies and landlords have been learning to adapt due to the pandemic and have introduced other ways of showing their properties, so most will have lots of photos and videos of the property. Unfortunately, the advice team cannot look at accommodation for you, but we can help by looking at tenancy agreements. Do not pay any money until you are 100% sure the property is real, and if you are in any doubt or if something doesn't seem right, then check it out with us in the Advice Centre.
I realise we've covered a lot and I hope you find some of it useful. Here is how to contact the different teams who are here to support you at UWE.